The shooter police say tried to kill former President Trump is at the center of the ongoing investigation into this failed assassination attempt. Today, we've got a local doctor talking about the common psychological traits of shooters in such cases, and is there a way to spot some of these early warning signs? Joining us with more on this is Dr. Dean Hickman, the Chief of Psychiatry and System Chair for Behavioral Health at Ochsner Health. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. So let me start by saying, you serve as a consultant for law enforcement on threat assessment. And based on what you've heard so far, does the shooter have some commonalities that you see pop up when we have cases like this?
Sure, he does. He's a single young male, said to be a loner, not many friends, who has an odd act about him. He is said to even have body odor, poor personal hygiene at school. He's bullied. They even refer to him at sometimes as the school shooter. He wears camouflage, hunting clothes. He's kind of taken the identity of a warrior or a shooter, an assassin. He even writes a paper in honors English as to whether JFK was killed by a single sniper or not. Now we know just last night that he's been researching the Trump rally location since the spring. President Trump had been there in the previous administration. And now maybe with that 10-day notice that his region gets, he starts to put actions into play.
And as many people will tell you, at some point in your life you're bullied. Why is it that there's some people who are bullied but they take it to another level? Is there something else going on? Because to some degree most people have been bullied in some respect, right?
Absolutely. And the majority thankfully don't act out. They found other coping strategies. They've academics, athletics, theater. If you're a parent, do something positive in your kid's life, self-esteem, get them to be a lifeguard or so. Contact the school or a mental health person for coping strategies. Of the ones that do ultimately act out, regrettably, there are some commonalities in that they are often victims of abuse at home themselves. They've suffered a loss of a person or loss of a job, or there's unrealistic, an unfulfilled goal. They've been rejected from the military, and then the snowball effect comes. The resentment, the planning, the grievance, how are they going to avenge themselves, and tragically that is the outcome.
Right, and people turn to you for your expertise. What are some of the warning signs family members may see? They may not recognize them, but they should pay attention to them.
In a loved one who's experienced, again, a loss or a grievance, they feel they've been wronged, or they're identifying with an oppressed group that they feel has been wronged. They become fixated on the issue. They start researching the issue. They maybe take on an identity of that person. They may wear certain clothing, as in his case, camouflage, that's reflective of that warrior mentality, or the clothes of the victims that they're emulating here. This is an opportunity for, again, the family to intervene and say, what's happening? Have they become interested in weaponry or tactics, or have there been episodes of recent violence in their life?
And what are the warning signs you tell for law enforcement who want help? Maybe there are some people on their radar or people who are not on their radar. What do you tell law enforcement?
Sure. Law enforcement knows what to do. They do a great job at this.
Are there signs specifically you tell them to look for?
They need the tips. So once they get the tip, they start looking at the computers, the cell phone messages, emails. What you'd also look for is, not everyone, but in this case, he also is researching major depressive disorder. So is there a history of mental illness or a current mental illness, particularly delusional thinking? While people with severe paranoia make up a very small minority, maybe 0.5% of these shooters, that's a tough sign to look for. Recent purchases, guns, reconnaissance. He's been to this site twice before the actual shooting.
Yeah, and the more things come out in terms of, because we live in an age where everyone's got a phone now, we're seeing more really disturbing things that were missed. Let's talk about how often, and what should people specifically do if you're a loved one and you're seeing some of these signs, because we're hearing now that the parents called police on Saturday saying they were worried about him, they couldn't find him. What does that tell you right there?
They had picked up on something. Regrettably, they picked up on it too late, though. So I would tell folks, if you see something, say something so someone else can do something. Alert certainly an intended target, alert the authorities, alert maybe a mental health provider. The emergency room where some of these people go is not an ideal place for an in-depth investigation. You can see if they're clearly a risk to themselves or others and hospitalized, but these investigations take more time, more technology to really make a sincere opinion. People come to me with the emergency room, please sign this paper so my son can go back to school tomorrow. That's not going to happen. I'm going to decide whether your son needs to be admitted to the hospital, but somebody needs to do a much deeper dive to clear him to return to school or someone to their place of employment.
Well, thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate you bringing that insight and the context to something that a lot of people are still trying to get answers on.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We also have an update to a story we brought you earlier. FBI officials told Congress on Wednesday that 20-year-old who we were just talking about, the young man who shot at former President Trump, it was initially said that he may have posted a warning on Steam, that's an online site, before the attack, but CNN is now reporting that investigators think the account is fake. So we hope to have more on this story, so many more developments happening with this, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we get it here as well online at fox8live.com.